This edition of MacVoices is supported by you, our viewers and listeners, through our new Patreon campaign. If you get value from MacVoices, please consider helping support the show by visiting patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is the first MacVoices of 2018. Welcome. We made it through 2017, and we're now ready to embark on 2018. I couldn't think of a better first show to have than Bob Dr. Mac LeVitus. Bob, Happy New Year. It's great to see you.
Happy New Year to you too, Chuck.
It's always great to see you, and it's especially good just to have you as the very first show of 2018. That means good things for 2018. You're my good luck charm.
Oh, I'm honored. I'm honored. I have big plans for 2018.
Oh, okay. Do we get to hear about them later, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Well, the first thing I wanted to touch on, though, before we'll do a little bit of 2017 business, and then we'll move to 2018, is right at the end of the year, you released a new copy of your iPad for Dummies book.
Yes, indeed.
So congratulations on yet another edition.
That's the 10th edition. Happy birthday to it. 10th edition. iPhone is the 11th edition, and as I told you pre-show, Mac OS 10, who knows? I mean, I've done every one since it started, and then Mac OS 8 and 7 and 6, I think 6. System 7.5 for Dummies was a real bestseller because Power Computing put one in the box with every computer they sold.
So at this point, Bob, after all these editions and all the iPads and the length of time the iPad has been out, how has the iPad for Dummies book evolved? I mean, do you still kind of just use the same formula and update it, or do you cover different things or take a different slant on it?
It depends on what year, because iOS changes that affect the iPad are more numerous and greater in some years than others. And so it just depends. Most years we've gone through the existing material and said, okay, where do the new features fit? And if something new is big enough, things can get rearranged. It's like, okay, so let's not do that chapter on 4 things anymore. Let's make that chapter shorter on 3 things and put this over here. Every edition we start out with I forgot what I call it, but it's like a blueprint. I take all the chapter titles and the contents and put down how many pages they are now, and then how many pages I think they're going to need, and how many new things are going in that chapter. Because one of the problems is with a For Dummies book, I have a very, very, very firm page count. It can't be altered. I can't say I need another 30 pages. There's a lot of new stuff, and there's no old stuff that needs to go. It's like, I'm sorry, that's tough. You'll have to find 30 pages of stuff that has to go. But that's the I guess that's the sad part of printed books. You saw my commercial for my printed book. I told people not to buy my book in print, because printed books are evil. They don't have all the good stuff that ebooks have, all that good juju.
It is interesting that we've gotten to that point that I go into paper bookstores like I always did. I always enjoy them, but I end up taking photos of the titles and then coming back and buying the ebook version. And I feel guilty about it because, here are these people trying to make a living selling the printed books, but they just are less convenient. They're less mobile. They take up more space, storage, and if I'm traveling and want to read something. So
I'm a fast reader, so for me, it's the difference between, if I'm going away for a while, the difference between packing, 5 or 10 things to read over a week, let's say. I would read 2 books or 3 books. An airplane flight, I don't like to watch movies. I like to read, catch up on my reading. So magazines, books, whatever. Different strokes.
Yeah, I guess I'm still waiting for someone to figure out a way for those physical bookstores that display all those great books and all the great cover art and everything that comes with books now, for a way to help support them without having to buy the book, which sounds really strange.
The user group in Chicago meets in a bookstore and pays for their meeting space, so they're supporting a bookstore.
Okay, there you go.
They meet there every month, not just when I come.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a way to show support for and it's an independent. It's not, Barnes and Noble or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real independent bookstore.
Interesting.
I didn't even check to see if they had any of my books.
Yeah. So with all the changes we saw to the iPad this year, and I guess most of those were software changes, but we now have a lot more multitasking things. We have a lot more of those features that people are touting as this makes the iPad a lot more of a productivity machine. Did that stuff figure heavily in the revision of this book?
Yeah, it made it more complicated for us as writers because we had to look at it and go, okay, well, we're not getting any more pages and we really have a bunch of new stuff here. What do you think we can, eliminate without affecting the quality of the book overall, or what can we reduce in most cases it ended up being, okay, well, there's a bunch of pictures in that chapter that we could probably get by without, and pictures take up half a page each. So each time you delete one and explain it with a sentence, you've gained a half a page. So a lot of times it just means going through and, ripping out some pictures that were, they wouldn't have been there in the first place if they weren't useful, but, you can say, now, you could live without that one. It's really not fun. I don't enjoy the process anymore at all. I've done it so many times, it's just gotten to be a grind for me every year, trying to figure out, which of my babies I have to throw away with the bathwater this year.
Yeah, but I have to say, the firm page count, I kind of get, because the Dummies books, with all the changes that come about with in this case iOS, they could grow to a point that they become intimidating at best and almost unreadable at worst because there's so much to cover. And and
they're for Dummies books, and I think because of that, they deliberately cap the page count at like whatever it is, which is way fewer than books that have the word Bible in them, or really any of their other product lines where they don't really, it's not aimed at a novice. For Dummies is kind of aimed at beginner users, and the whole idea is it's not intimidating. It's friendly. Everything is, done in plain English instead of jargon, and things are explained clearly and things like that. So, that's just the angle of that particular line of books. So, I don't remember what the number is, but I know that all my books are there. And so every year when I beg for, the way it works is for printed books, you have to add a signature. You can't add a page. You have to add, I think, 16 or 32 pages, which is it has to do with how they're printed and bound. So I keep begging, 32 pages, one signature or two signatures. Come on. How bad could how about if we don't number the index? Then people won't know that it's over. Never. It's like, nope, you're just going to have to find stuff to excise.
Yeah.
But, it keeps us on our toes. It does. It keeps the material finely tuned to what's important. It's like we can look at stuff and go, yeah, 3 pages to talk about all the fun filters maybe is overkill in the photos chapter. I don't know. Your mileage may vary.
Sure. Well, it depends on what your focus is. But I have to say that I've been given copies of the Dummies books for subjects that had nothing to do with tech. And one thing I've always respected about the Dummies books, I mean, in spite of the title, which
the unfortunate title.
Well, I don't know if it's unfortunate.
I tried to get them to change it. I kept saying, can't we call this Mac OS 10 for people smart enough to know they need Bob LeVitus's book? Yeah. That works, and you don't call anybody dummy. Like, no, we put a lot of money into that branding.
Yeah. But it works because every one of those books, again, on whatever subject, I feel like I'm getting a good basic understanding. You're right. No jargon, nothing over my head. It's stuff that I can all understand. So if I have a topic that I'm a total novice at, and there's a Dummies book
Dummies book is a good place to start. Yeah. It is for a lot of things. And I've read a lot that have nothing. David Pogue wrote Magic for Dummies. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
He's a prestidigitator. And in the early days, they were like, I tried to get them to let me write online sex for dummies.
Okay.
They had no interest, but they did, and I told them this was a bad idea. They did Sex for Dummies with Dr. Ruth Westheimer.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, yeah, that's going to sell 4 copies because nobody's going to walk up to the counter. This was before Amazon. Nobody's going to walk up to the counter with Sex for Dummies in their hand, except maybe a guy saying, I'm buying my friend a gag gift for his 21st birthday or something. But yeah, can you imagine somebody walking up at Barnes & Noble with Sex for Dummies in their hand, smiling, yeah, this is what I'm buying.
Yeah, but
What does that say about me?
yeah, but having Dr. Ruth as the name probably didn't hurt it at all. Just people bought the book just because of her name.
I don't think it sold well. Maybe it did.
Yeah, I don't know.
Didn't have anything about online sex, though.
Anyway, I don't know how we got off onto this, but let's wander back. So the iPad book is the newest version. You've mentioned filters. I mean, do you hit hard the Photos app, the revised Photos app in the book?
There's a chapter on photos, so it gets a full treatment, and I think probably some of the simpler stuff that was in there before is augmented. I think that's a place where we didn't cut anything. I think we just added stuff there and cut elsewhere. Ed wrote that chapter. However, this year, that chapter was written by none other than Brian Chaffin. So Brian, my co-author Ed, he and I have done every edition of the iPad and the iPhone book. And this summer, he was very busy with his job at USA Today. And we were doing the iPad book, the iPhone book, and iPhone 10 book, because this year we had to do a separate edition for iPhone 10 because it didn't come out until 2 months after the other iPhones, and we needed a book to fill the gap. And so there's 2 books. There's like iPhone for Dummies 11th edition with information about the 10, but not really much. And that has stuff online that when you buy the book, it says if you got an iPhone 10, the rest of the material about the iPhone 10 is here at this special website. And then there's an iPhone 10 for Dummies books for people 2 months later who had the choice of which one should I get? Well, I have an iPhone 10. I'll get the one that says iPhone 10 on it. And that one, the only big difference is we had our iPhone 10s then for a couple of weeks, so we could actually talk about how things worked. And more than that, we excised everything that you didn't need to know if you had an iPhone 10. So there wasn't anything about using your thumb. There wasn't anything about double tapping the home button. All of those things were just gone in the iPhone 10 version. So it's a pure iPhone 10 book. Less likely to confuse. Well, I'm kind of glad because if your first iPhone was an iPhone 10, it'll be a lot less confusing for you. Now, if you're upgrading, I don't think it makes that much difference. I think you'll still be fine with this book. But it's the reason for doing it wasn't because it's a great idea to have a separate book for one model of iPhone. It was more the timing. And we had, people, book chains wanting to buy iPhone books. And so, they did what we had to do. And I got an extra book out of it this year. So I did 2 iPhone books this year. Anyway, the upshot is Ed couldn't do the iPad book in the time frame that it was necessary. Me, on the other hand, since my middle name is Dr. Productivity, I just said, yeah, sure, I could do another book in 4 weeks. Not a problem. So Brian and I did this update.
Okay.
Brian did all of Ed's chapters. Ed reviewed everything Brian wrote. Everybody was happy at the end of the day. Brian got his name on the cover. And I think it came out pretty good. It was one of these things where we were pressed against the gun. We really needed to, in order to get it out close to when the iPads came out and iOS 11 came out, we had to really hustle. It's like we had to write all these books all at the same time pretty much, except for the iPhone 10 book.
Right.
And I did the Mac book first. I did Mac OS 10 High Sierra for Dummies before I started on iPhone or iPad or iPhone 10. And I did those 3 all at once. And now I'm done for a while.
I would think so.
Next year. Till next year.
Yeah, I would think so. That's a lot to put together.
Oh, it's a good job. It's like I kind of wish I could give it up now and do something else, because it's 3 or 4 months that I can't do other stuff really. I just don't have a lot of time or bandwidth for other projects, and but they're my babies. These are books that really I created out of whole cloth one day long ago, and have massaged, and just nurtured along for 10, 11, 12, 15 editions. And if I walk away, they're not going to start with a new author and say, write a new book. They're going to give them my text and say, update this for the next thing. And while I haven't looked at my contract, but, I probably get paid for a year or maybe even 2 years, something. It's like, I don't know. It's like selling your children. I'm not ready yet.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be the same book. I mean, they might give it to somebody else to update, but it wouldn't be the same book. And that's what people, I think, they gravitate to your name because they know your style and they want to go and see what's new, and they want you to tell them.
I deliver quality. I'm known for my strict adherence to quality. And, I really kind of like being in charge. It's like, I think now, working smarter for Mac users, I'm pretty sure there's only one typo left. I saw one when I was going through the stuff the other day, and I said, nobody has caught that one. But, it's my baby. When somebody found a typo, we fixed it and we put out version 1.1. We actually fixed a bunch of little mistakes and just put out a new version.
Yeah.
I like being able to do that with a Dummies book. If there's a mistake or if there's a change in one of Apple's, minor updates, if it changes something that we wrote about, we don't really get the chance to go back and fix it. We maybe could write something online, but I don't know if people know to look there. And a lot of these books, they have such short life cycles that they don't get second printings.
Right.
And by the time it's time, they print the amount they think they can sell. And if it doesn't do better than that, by the time, they sell out, the new editions are coming out. Yeah. They've gotten very good at that.
That's the paper book business.
That's the business.
So let's keep on going with 2017. An obvious question is, did you get any? Boy, this is the most useless question in the world. Did you get any tech gifts for the holidays?
Yes.
What did you pick up?
I certainly did. Well, it's funny. My family know me really well, and so I got a Sous Vide machine. You know what that is?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So they got me a Sous Vide that's controlled by a iPhone app. It's so awesome. I mean, It's like I said to my kids, I said, you guys know me so well. This is like the perfect nerd cooking gift. So I've been sous videing my brain out. That's just too fun. What else? Well, I really got a bunch of gadgets. The other two don't really have iPhone connections, but they're still gadgets. One is called Instant Pot. It's a 9-in-1 cooker that's like a pressure cooker, a rice cooker, a slow cooker, a sauté pan. It dices, it slices. It can cook everything at once, and it all goes in the dishwasher when you're done. My mother-in-law got us that. And then my wife... I got my wife for her, I guess, for our anniversary. I got us an air fryer, which I love.
Okay.
Air fryer. It's like, it looks like a fry basket thing, but there's no oil. It's all done with convection and hot air, but it makes stuff crispy like it was cooked in oil without all the health hazard. It's like, whoa, that's like magic. You put French fried potatoes in there and they come out tasting like French fried potatoes, not like baked potatoes, but French fries.
So that's three. I find this interesting. That's three.
All three of my gadgets are kitchen gadgets.
And they're kitchen gadgets. I didn't know you were that much of a chef.
Oh, and the fourth one I made myself. I also built a mud oven in my backyard, a big dome of mud that you can cook pizza or bread in. Unfortunately, version 1.0 wasn't sturdy enough, and it was left out in the rain, and it collapsed upon itself. So version 2.0 is the foundation is laid, and I'm building it, and I expect by spring I will have a large igloo-shaped mud oven in my backyard for baking and cooking pizzas. To go with my smoker and my big green egg. So yes, I am.
You are, okay.
I'm an enthusiastic amateur chef. My daughter is a chef, a real chef. I mean, like went to school to be a chef and works in a high-end restaurant, and she runs circles around me. But I try. It's like, here's the thing. I realized a long time ago that I like to eat. And my wife, when she works till 7 at night. So that means I'm responsible for dinner. So it didn't take long to figure out that either I had to go out and get stuff every night for dinner, or I had to learn to cook something. And as long as I was learning to cook stuff, I learned to cook stuff I like. That she likes too. But over the years, I mean, it's been 25 years that I've been responsible for dinner 3 or 4 nights a week for the whole family. I had to learn, I learned on the fly. Luckily, there's this thing called the internet now. It's just great for recipes.
Trouble is, there's so many of them that you want to try. That's the thing.
Yes, but I mean, whatever you think of, if you don't have it in one of your favorite cookbooks, you can look on the internet and get some ideas of what goes in it. You don't have to follow a recipe, but you can, get started from it. Know what you have to shop for, at least.
Yeah. I'll go back to the sous vide for a second, and this is just absolutely just for me, and if anybody else.
No, I bet people are interested. It's interesting.
When you're doing the sous vide, are you able to use just like regular plastic bags, or do they have special sous vide bags?
That's a good question. I don't know, because I have a seal-a-meal, and so I use the food grade bags that you seal. Part of the real sous vide technique is vacuum sealing.
Right.
So part of the way that the cooking happens is reverse pressure. Instead of a pressure cooker, which is pushing down, it sucks all the air out. And that, if there's liquids in there, forces the liquids into the protein, usually the meat. So you've got marinade and you've got meat, and you put it in a bag and seal it and suck all the air out, the juices are kind of jammed into the meat. So that's the idea. The idea is that by sealing it and vacuuming it, you're forcing all of the flavor into whatever you're cooking. And then you can set the temperature so that it takes longer to cook. You've got this big range of temperatures, because it'll stay exactly the temperature you set it. And you can go from about like 120 for some things, like tuna. If you want to pre-do tuna before you cook it, for some people, I wouldn't do this, but you can sous vide it for like an hour at 120, and that gets it just a little teeny tiny bit pink, so you can sear it and serve it, and it's not medium, it's more rarish. Me, I wouldn't bother with the first step. I whisper flame at it, and then I eat it raw. I like raw tuna. But the sous vide is interesting, and what's interesting is most of the recipes require you to finish it with something else that gives it its crispy or lines on the steak. But almost everything I've cooked in there came out pretty darn good.
Yeah, I have friends that have tried sous vide, and I've never gotten into it. Although everything I've ever had out of it is good, but
now it's $99. Oh. That's what was so cool. Is it used to be $1,000 machine that took up a lot of counter space, and there was no way I was even remotely interested. But this company Anova invented this. It looks like an immersion blender. It's just a stick, and it's got a clamp, and it clamps on the side of a big pot or a big plastic food grade container. And you program it on the iPhone with an app. You tell it what temperature you want the water and for how long. It tells you when it cycles up. You put your stuff in. It tells you when it's done. How can you? I mean, it's like you can't fail.
Okay, I think you just spent some of my Christmas money.
Pretty idiot proof. Well, they have two versions. So there's the one that my daughter bought us is the Bluetooth version, which is fine. That means that I can control it from my kitchen, basically. If I get far from the kitchen, it loses the signal and we're not connected anymore. But it reconnects when I walk back in, and it doesn't stop cooking if I walk away. The other one, though, has Wi-Fi too. And you can do stuff from away. It's like you can say, crank that up to 201 for the next hour, even though I'm still at the office. That I don't care about, It's like, because I work at home. That really didn't matter to me. But they do offer a version that lets you remotely, program it. or so you could, like, if you had something that you wanted to cook tonight, you could tell it to turn on. You put the food in there in the morning, tell it to turn on at 3:30 in the afternoon. It'll sous vide for 4 hours, and when you get home, dinner will be ready.
I'm getting hungry just talking about it because I'm thinking of the things I've gathered up a bunch of sous vide recipes, and now I have to execute them, and you're just encouraging it. So
yeah, I just bought. I got right here. Oh, this one's the Instant Pot cookbook. I bought 2 cookbooks this week. Here's the Instant Pot, and there's another one in the other room that's sous vide. And I'm still collecting internet recipes. I made pork ribs the other day. They were amazing. They took 6 hours, I think, in the sous vide, but they came out just like butter.
Well, let's turn to 2018. I know 2017 you did a lot of things with Working Smarter for Mac users. Is that going to continue into 2018?
Oh, yeah. Wait till you see what I got in store for you next.
Okay. Can we talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. The next thing to happen is going to be, so I did a short course. I did a course based on the first part of the book. And I just kind of wanted to see how the response to it was before I committed to filming another 49 lessons to finish it out. So I did 9, 18, I did like 25 lessons. It was about 3 hours of training. And I sold it for anywhere from $49 to $99. And then I dropped it like about a month ago to $19.99 until the new version comes out. And I've had hundreds of people sign up and take the course, and they like it. They're really pretty satisfied, which leads me to believe that this is really useful information. So I'm shooting and editing the other 44 lessons, and on February something, 15th probably, 14th, Valentine's Day. So let's say Valentine's Day, we will have a 10-hour course, Working Smarter for Mac users, with a private forum on Facebook, and questions and answers in the classrooms. There's a bulletin board for each lesson. So if you have a question about a lesson, I get an email that says, go answer this person's question. It's really very cool way to teach. I taught at UT for years. I taught, intro to Mac and intro to iPhoto, intro to GarageBand, lots of classes at UT, informal classes. And I love teaching people how to do stuff. And it turns out that this stuff, working smarter, being more efficient, learning how not to fall down the rabbit hole, things like that, it strikes a chord with a lot of people. So I'm going to expand. I'm building it out this year. So there'll be the full course, and with any luck at all, by the end of the year, I'll have some master courses. I want to do a master course on snippets. I want to do a master course on macros and automation, and I think I had one other one, but I'd like for people when they're done with the 10-hour class, if they want to really take it to the next level, there's a few places where we could drill down and do another hour or two of I'm sure I could do an hour of TextExpander and teach a lot of people a lot of things that they didn't know they could do and might be worth doing. Same thing with Keyboard Maestro. I use it for a lot of cool stuff. It might trigger something in you that would, save you hours potentially. So I think I could do tutorials on those like master classes because they're in the course now, but it's more like, this is what it does. This is why I think it's awesome. And here's a couple of examples. Boom. Here's go get the free trial and see what you think.
Bob, when you start talking about courses that have that many pieces to it, I think there's a potential for people to become a little intimidated. How long, on average, say, is each section or each piece in these courses?
No more, except for the introduction and the prelude, which are longer, but all of the lessons are under 10 minutes. I try to make it very digestible. I don't want to ramble on. And if something requires more than 10 minutes, I figure out a way to break it into 2 lessons. So I don't think there's a lesson longer than 7 or 8. And there's a couple that are maybe at the 8-minute mark. Most of them are 5 or 6 minutes, 4 minutes. The idea is you should be able to sit down and do a few of them before you get fatigued. You know, I don't want to have something that you're looking at your watch. When's it over? So 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I'd say they average probably 5.
You just mentioned TextExpander and Keyboard Maestro, which are both third-party apps. Do the courses focus, or do they include a lot of third-party apps, or do they focus primarily on what macOS gives you?
I'd say it's mostly free macOS stuff. And in the case of something like TextExpander, macOS has a serviceable representation of snippetizing that I teach. And then I say, you know, if you like this and this is working for you, you can do a bunch more stuff if you use this. But the concept of snippets is kind of integral to working smarter. And you know, the way I sell it is you got it for free. It's not bad. But I mean, if you really want to get on top of that, if you want to be a raging thunder lizard of productivity is what I say, you're going to want to buy that.
Yeah.
I think you agree. I mean,
yeah. I mean, TextExpander is like one of those top. They're like five things that I would hesitate to try to prioritize because I just think they're all so essential. And,
top 5.
Yeah, and TextExpander is absolutely one of those. It's just because anybody can use it. I defy you to show me a Mac user who would not benefit from what TextExpander does, because we all repeat things. So.
Well, and Keyboard Maestro, too, in a little nerdier way, but once you figure out all the things that it lets you do faster and easier, you start to like look for ways to integrate it in a workflow. The more I use it, the more I find other things I could do with it. And a lot of times knowing how to use it is the only solution to a task. Like I've had stuff where, you know, I'm not a fan of iTunes. Yeah, it's still available. iTunes must die. You can still download it for free. But I don't know. It's just gotten worse and worse and worse. I'm thinking of writing another song because they ripped out apps from it, and now it's like really useless. If you're an iPhone user, I mean, it really doesn't do the things that I want to do. Like I want to rearrange the pages on my iPhone.
Okay.
Can't do that. I want to be able to move icons around easily and not have to drag them across 7 home screens. Can't do that anymore. So I've been using iMazing a lot. And boy, that's another thing I can heartily recommend spending 40 or 50 bucks on if you're frustrated with the way iTunes does stuff. It's brilliant. I mean, it lets you actually restore individual things that you can't restore any other way. I mean, it's just kind of magical. I only want that game back with all my saved game data. No problem. If you backed it up, you can have it back.
Yeah, I have iMazing run every night, in addition to my iCloud backups, and so I always have a current backup, and it really is. It is the essential utility for iPhone and iPad, as far as I'm concerned. Especially now with what Apple has done to iTunes.
What? I haven't written a column about it, so in 2018 I will write a column about iMazing, and mention how much I love iTunes.
Yeah,
he says facetiously.
So let's see what else is on tap for 2018 then.
Oh, what else is on tap? Oh, I know. I'm going to try. I haven't revealed this publicly yet, but I'm going to try to do an event in San Francisco
Okay.
that combines an all-day kind of like educational jam session with myself and several other Mac notables, people who are experts in things. I'd like to be able to do like a thing where you could come and hang out with people like me and you and Bert Monroy and Brian and Dave and, like, what's your thing? You want to talk about networking? Go over here and hang out with Dave. You want to talk about GarageBand? Bob's doing a demo at 1:00 and, all day long, all of these people jamming and doing the things they do, teaching and showing people stuff, followed by dinner and a performance by the Macworld All-Star Band.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
There's the hook. There's the hook.
I know. Well, there's no more Macworld anymore. And yes, there's that thing in the summer in Chicago, but I don't know. I've never been. And while I hear good things about it, it's kind of like, yeah, if I'm going to do this, I want the Macworld All-Star Band reunion. You know, we didn't really get a chance to say goodbye. We really thought we were going to have one more Cirque du Mac.
Yeah. Well,
to really nail it.
Macstock in Chicago it would be a very, very decent alternative if you decided to go that direction.
But, they haven't asked. I think maybe it's a cost thing. It's like the Macworld All-Star Band isn't a cheap outfit to hire.
I'll make a phone call.
Not that the players require a lot of money, but got to rent equipment. You got to have a rehearsal place.
Right.
In San Francisco, in the Bay Area, we had, fortunately, our keyboard player had a studio in Redwood City, and we could rehearse there for free. So we only really needed, and since everybody lived around there except me and
I guess Dave and Chuck.
Yeah. But everybody else is kind of West Coasty, so they could bring their own equipment. So, they didn't have to rent that much stuff. In Chicago, we'd have to have everybody's gear. Everybody'd have to rent everything pretty much except guitars. Yeah. Guitars you can carry, but drums, they don't travel very well by air.
Yeah.
I don't think. Anyway, it could be done, but it would be one of those things where, it's going to have some expenses. Whereas if in San Francisco, I think we keep the expenses to a bare minimum. Right. Plus, I think we have a great venue, Broadway Studios. It's like that's a great place to have an all-day event and a dinner party and a band thing.
Well, let me know when. That sounds good. That sounds like
we'll see if we can make this happen. I'm thinking of if I can get all the parties to commit. I'm thinking of doing it as a Kickstarter thing, because then if we hit the number, then we get to do it. If we don't, well, we tried. All we lost was some sweat equity.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it, and with enough publicity, I've got to believe that, especially on the West Coast, where
I have to run the numbers, but I think if it were. So let's say it's an all-day Saturday affair, right? It starts at 9 a.m. Saturday or 10 a.m. Saturday, and it runs till midnight or 1:00. And it included, 7 tracks of stuff you could do, plus dinner and the band. How much would you pay for that? That's the $100. The $1 million question is, what's that worth? Is it worth $199? Is it worth $129? Is it worth $99? Can we make it happen at 99? If we made it 99, how many people would we need? Can we fit that many people? There's a lot of unknowns, but my goal would not be to make money. It would be to not lose money.
Right.
And in fact, I would probably say if we make a profit, let's just donate it to EFF or something. I mean, we're not doing this to make money. We just want to have a gathering and a band thing, And yeah, Macstock would be fine, but it would be a lot more, costly. Because
And at the end of the day, Bob, these events, I hear people not complain, but they comment on, gee, it didn't used to be this expensive. Well, in those days, the money was flowing a lot more freely. You had a lot of really big companies trying to get attention. And now they don't need these events to get the same amount of attention for whatever reason. Maybe it's because of the web, because of podcasting, maybe they don't need the same face-to-face time because you can have it in so many different ways. And so if you want,
you mean like this, like a Skype call?
Yeah, exactly. Or they can do video training options, or YouTube, or Google Hangouts.
All of my consulting now is face-to-face and screen sharing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't go to people's houses very much.
Yeah. And so, and that's fine. But if you want the in-person events, they're going to cost. I mean, you're talking about trying to feed people. Well, that right there, turns into money that you've got to expend. And, like you said, you got to rent the venues.
And I'd want to do lunch and dinner. And I'd want to do good lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to be there all day. I want to feed you nicely.
Yeah, you don't want just dogs and fries. I mean, come on, so
we always had good food at Cirque du Mac. I don't know if you ever came to any of our dinners, but we always had catered dinner. Mm-hmm. Their food's great. They have great cooking, so we could come up with some pretty, not like institutionalized food. We would definitely have craft food and craft beer.
Yes, you might even cook.
And craft liquor.
Yeah, you might even cook.
I might even cook. Unlikely.
Bring your
my smoker. I'm going to bring my smoker. I have another thing called CyberQ Barbecue Guru that maintains the temperature of your smoker. It's a fan that's operated by it's got a little processor, and it's Wi-Fi operated, so you can go away and it'll tell you what the temperature in your smoker is, and you can adjust it remotely. You can say, oh yeah, bring it down 25 degrees, and it'll slow the fan down and suck air out until the temperature drops to where it wants. And if it gets too low, it'll start blowing on the embers to heat it up. Can keep the thing at a steady temperature for hours and hours and hours. Pretty cool.
I foresee a lot of cooking with tech.
I think this
columns
is
this year.
I think this is a whole part of the smart home and the smarter appliance thing that's kind of been overlooked. It's like I didn't really think about it, but now I have two devices that have their own app, and they're responsible for me cooking better with whatever, like the sous vide means I can make stuff that I couldn't make before, because without a sous vide machine, you really can't do it. You got to keep the temperature exactly at it. It's not like you can put it on the stove and turn the burner on and hope for the best. You're talking about like the recipes go, cook it at 161 degrees for 4 hours and 30 minutes. Like,
yep.
Much deviation from that, you're going to wreck it.
Yep.
But there's this exact. It's very precise, very scientific.
Yeah.
I do like it though because it's very reproducible. Whereas barbecuing and grilling and stuff, some days are better than others. Some days you get a better fire. Some days you get a better chunk of meat. With the sous vide, it doesn't matter. The stuff's going to come out like butter. Yeah.
It's always interesting to me, Bob. There are a few things that resonate through the tech community. Musicianship is one, and unfortunately, I don't share in that one, even though I have a love of
culinary
music. But culinary,
and beer aficionado, and
do you know anyone?
Wine.
Yeah, do you know anyone that does not worship Alton Brown for the Good Eats series? I mean, everybody I know watched that.
Well, that's how I learned all the science I know about the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's supposed to be a cooking show, but it was a sciencey, techie cooking show.
Yes.
And he's coming back.
I thought it was fascinating, just to learn why the Maillard effect. How would I know about stuff like that without all of that?
Yeah. And he's coming back. They're going to be new Good Eats episodes in 2018.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah. He was on tour. He actually did a live show. I didn't get to go. But I said, my wife and I said, we should go to that. But we were out of town.
Yeah.
We would like that. He's coming to the big theater downtown.
Yeah,
I'm sure he was very entertaining.
Yeah, I went to
I'd have been taking notes.
Oh, yeah. I went to one of his shows, and as always, it's informative, it's educational, it's fun.
And fun.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
He does a great job. Well, 2018 sounds like it's going to be a big year, and I hope you'll come back and visit us frequently as some of these things come to fruition, or you're ready to tell us more about them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, plan on, as soon as I get this thing up and running, I want to come back and offer your viewer listeners a very special deal to come and take my course.
Perfect. Then that means you'll be back before Valentine's Day at some point.
Fingers crossed. No?
Bob, if folks want to see the more of what you're offering and the existing courses, where do we send them?
The best place to go is just to, the shortest place to go, the shortest URL, I should make sure it works before I give it to you, but you can always go to workingsmarterformacusers.com. That always works, but I'm pretty sure I installed the redirect for Bob LeVitus, which is shorter. BobLeVitus.com. That should take you to Working Smarter for Mac Users.
Okay, so both of them land you in the same place.
With any luck at all.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
There
Wait.
it goes. Yeah, it works.
It works, okay.
I mean, I'm not a webmaster. I'm just a guy with a website.
Yeah. Well, hey, Bob, it's great to see you. Thanks so much, and we'll look forward to a great 2018.
Well, thanks, and I'll see you in February. Have Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Folks, Happy New Year to you. We hope you will stick with us through 2018. We have a lot of great things planned, a lot more guests, maybe a few surprises, a few new things if they all come to pass. You just never know. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our MacVoices Facebook group and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us at patreon.com/MacVoices and join these folks who help keep MacVoices coming to you. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.